You're listening to Speaking of Health and Wellness, the podcast, where we dive into holistic nutrition, biomedical treatments, functional medicine, low toxicant living, and developmental strategies with a special focus on children with complex picky eating, developmental delays, and neurodevelopmental disorders. I'm your host, Shandy Laskey, integrative speech-language pathologist, pediatric feeding specialist, functional nutritional therapy practitioner, and epidemic answers certified health coach. Together, we are changing the conversation around how we view, discuss, prevent, and treat these childhood epidemics. I am so honored to have your time and attention today. Thank you for joining me and for all of your support. Please note that this podcast is for educational purposes only and should never be misconstrued as medical advice or a replacement for individualized care from your trusted providers. Now, without any further ado, let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to Speaking of Health and Wellness, the podcast. You're listening to Season 2, Episode 3, How to Meet Your Child Where They Are During Mealtimes. This week, I'm doing a special podcast series all about picky eating as part of my new online course launching this week. The course is called Naturally Navigating Picky Eating, and it is now open for enrollment. Today is day 3 of the course's first launch week. And when you enroll before Saturday, May 18th at 8:00 p.m. Central Standard Time, you'll receive access to the launch bonus of 3 live group Q&A calls at no extra cost. That's a bonus valued at $700 alone, available to you at no additional cost when you enroll during this week's launch promotion. Get in before Saturday, May 18th at 8:00 p.m. Central Standard Time in order to get that launch bonus of 3 live group Q&A calls. Naturally Navigating Picky Eating is a self-paced course for parents and caregivers of children with complex picky eating, with and without developmental conditions, designed specifically to help you identify the underlying issues related to your child's picky eating and empower you with the strategies and resources so that you can tailor an approach for their unique needs and help them eat a nutritionally balanced diet and become more adventurous with foods. As I said, this is a course for parents with and without children with developmental conditions. It is applicable to parents of children who have a variety of diagnoses, parents of children with developmental delays, speech-language disorders, autism spectrum disorders, sensory processing challenges, Down syndrome, childhood apraxia of speech, PANS-PANDAS conditions, and other neurodevelopmental conditions. You're in the right place. Also, if you are the parent or caregiver of a child with a chronic health condition or other unwanted health symptoms, no matter the diagnosis or those unwanted symptoms, if you want to improve your child's nutrition and support their overall health and development, but you're feeling stuck on where to start because of their picky eating habits, this course is for you. Do not let picky eating be the obstacle that's keeping your child from reaching their optimal health and wellness. If it sounds like a good fit, I would love to see you in there. The doors for the launch bonus close on Saturday, May 18th, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. After that, you can still enroll in the course and get everything that the course includes except for those launch bonus calls at no extra cost. You may likely be able to get into some live component in the future. I haven't worked all of those details out yet, so I'm hesitant to promise too much because I can't promise anything right now. But my goal is that, or my hope is that in the future, whoever is in the course gets the option to have like an access pass where they can opt in to come into the live cohort that is, coming up at the time each launch that happens. So stay tuned for those details, and if you want to for sure get into those live calls, just make sure that you enroll by this Saturday. But even if you don't, and you're listening to this after the fact, there is still so much value and so many incredible resources to support you along your child and family's journey overcoming this very complex picky eating. And you also have access to an exclusive Facebook group community where you can come and ask me questions about the course curriculum. Oh my goodness, I have to just interrupt myself right now because as I'm recording this, there's an eagle, a bald eagle, just as beautiful and majestic as ever, just flew right into the center of the window that I am looking out in a tree perched above uh, across the yard. And like, what a distraction, but a beautiful distraction. I just had to share it with you. So imagine in this moment that I'm recording this and a bald eagle just flies into my view. Woo, America's bird. So beautiful. Anyways, let's get into today's episode. How to meet your child where they are during meal times. To meet them where they are, you have to first understand where they are. And what do I mean by that? I mean, we need to just back up and zoom out and become an observer. Put on our detective hat for a moment and start by taking an inventory of your child's favorite foods. I'm talking the foods that, if it were up to them, they would live off of these foods alone. What are those foods? And then I want you to make another list of the foods that they will willingly eat, but they wouldn't necessarily reach for them or ask for them, but they do willingly eat them when presented. And then look at those lists and if you can find, look to see if you can find patterns. Look for different similarities of textures, flavors, um, different attributes. Are there a lot of crunchy foods? Is that a theme for your child? For many of these children, I'll see that they like really crunchy foods, but it's not crunchy foods that stay crunchy until you've chewed them all the way. They're crunchy foods that specifically dissolve when they become wet with saliva. So they don't take a lot of effort to chew them. It's kind of a chew, chew, chew. The food, it gets wet enough where the kid can swallow and just sort of keep going. Typically, these are like more processed, crunchy types of foods that are crunchy but dissolvable with the saliva. Um, do they really like chewy textures, soft textures, pureed textures? Are there multiple textures represented? If so, what textures are represented? What textures are missing? And think about, whether it's what's missing or are their favorite textures. Think about why that could be. What are, is it, sometimes I see that kids who love crunchy foods, they're going for that like sensory experience. They love the crunch and the sensory input into their jaw and into their mouth, and they love that crunchy crunch, crunch, crunch. And if they have a difference in their sensory awareness within their mouth, whether that is a hypo low awareness or a hyper heightened awareness of sensitivity, and or some children can have a mix of that sensitivity, in certain cases, in certain different parts of the mouth having different heightened versus low sensitivity and stuff like that. So sometimes kiddos who have a mixed or a low sensitivity will oftentimes reach for things that are very crunchy or chewy often, and they like that because it increases the sensory awareness within their mouth, and it can be incredibly regulating for their overall nervous system to get that input into their jaw, that TMJ joint, and all of that can be very regulating. But specifically, some kiddos like the sensory increase, because sometimes it can actually make them feel safer because they get more awareness into their mouth and they can feel more of what's going on in their mouth. Going back to the food list, what about the food groups? Are there, are there different food groups represented here, or is it dominant in a couple food groups or one specific food groups? I'm talking, like fats, proteins, fibers, carbs, all the good stuff. Is there a theme or a pattern or one dominant um, group that they are defaulting to? And same questions apply. What are the patterns and similarities? And is your child defaulting to those because they are preferences, just simply preferences? Or usually, when there is complex picky eating involved, there are other factors at play, whether that is structural functional factors of, for example, like some kids, well, like the sensory aspects of food and the increased awareness of the mouth, that would be a structural functional aspect that I'm talking about. But also think about from a motor aspect. If a kiddo does not feel safe to properly bite, chew, take in, and swallow this um this food. I'm so sorry. This eagle is such a distraction. It's flying around. Hold on, give me a second. This eagle is really putting on a little show, swooping down and hunting in front of me, and it's a bit distracting. Oh, I apologize. Okay, so my train of thought on that. If a child does not feel safe to be eating a certain food when asked to eat a certain food, it may be because they are unable to tell you, because they don't know, that they have some sort of issue skill wise from a chewing side of things, or and sometimes it's not just of chewing, sometimes it's structural functional in terms of how their body is positioned, or even more internally how they are digesting something. Sometimes kiddos just, maybe they had this food one time and the experience of digestion was not fun. Or maybe your kid is chronically constipated. And so that influences their food intake, and they only want to default to these certain foods. And that's getting more into that like biochemical nutritional component of it, where sometimes you have kiddos who, for different reasons, whether it's gut health related or it's specific to a food additive or ingredient within that food, that creates a very, very strong, sometimes addictive like response within the body to these foods, where it looks like it's your kid's favorite food, but really there's some underlying, sometimes low level inflammation that actually creates an exorphin like response, right? So it's an endorphin like response, similar to a runner's high, but it's from a food that they might even be sensitive to, that is making them crave it in this way. So there are all sorts of different reasons why a child may be hesitant to eat a food, or why they might default strongly to these specific foods. And so, in order to meet them where they are, you have to understand where they are by taking a close inventory of what they are willing to eat, and also what are their top favorite foods. Start from there. Sometimes parents tell me they used to eat this, and this, a list of foods, but they don't anymore. They used to like it, but something happened and now they don't. If that's the case for you, then also make a list of those foods. And when you're thinking about what new foods to introduce, go back to that list. because those foods aren't totally, brand new to them. There's some level of familiarity, even if they don't articulate that they can remember it. But there's still some sort of familiarity with that of, oh yeah, I've had this before. My mouth has tasted this before. My digestive system has broken this down before. Once you have your inventory and you've sort of assessed these patterns and taken a look across of the board like that, you can think about how you can build on this to branch out, going for the things that they like, the textures that they like, the flavors that they like, the colors that they like of certain foods. And sometimes you might not exactly start by adding new foods. Sometimes you just start by asking, are they resilient to change of the foods that they already eat? Start there. If they have to have certain bowls or certain plates, cups, utensils, or whatever, all of that is worth noting to me, because is that a preference that stems from OCD or anxiety or a need for control? Or is it coming from the fact that they have some type of skill issue and this specific cup or this specific utensil is what they know they can actually be successful with and eat during the meal times? When you're trying to eat, you don't want to choose the cup that's hard for you. If you had a difficulty with drinking, or if you had a difficulty with eating, you wouldn't want to choose the utensil that made it more difficult for you. Whether that's from a fine motor perspective, an oral motor perspective. Our oral motor skills within our mouth are the finest fine motor skills that we have, and they build upon our gross motor skills, our big body skills. So if you're watching your kiddo and you notice that they're not a very coordinated kiddo from like a whole body perspective, then you may be able to infer. I mean, obviously, this is not like a clear cut diagnostic thing here, but in many cases, you can infer that if they have a difficulty coordinating their bigger body movements and their fine motor movements, then the finest fine motor movements of the mouth, they may be difficult to coordinate too. Um, and or oftentimes motor and sensory go hand in hand. And so sometimes you will see kiddos who have something going on from a motor perspective also have something going on from a sensory perspective, going back to what we were talking about with the increased or decreased awareness of the mouth. So your child. If you can change the utensils and the bowls and the cups and all of that, then okay, move on from there. But if you can't, start there and try to sort through, like, why is your kid so resistant to the change on this? And then if you can move from there, you can go to the actual food. Before you change how you present one of their favorite foods or one of the foods that they will willingly eat and accept, first, just like before you change how you prepare it, I mean, for example, if they love sweet potato fries and you say, okay, I want to go to sweet potato mash, like a mashed sweet potato, like that might be too big of a jump. Instead, I would say just change the shape. So if your kiddo loves sweet potato fries, are they willing to let you make sweet potato fries in cubes, in like a hash, like a cheese grater type of texture? Or maybe they're eating sweet potatoes that aren't homemade. Maybe it's a frozen sweet potato. Are they willing to let you make a homemade sweet potato? All of these questions are important to meet them where they are from a skill and preference perspective, but also as a tip, when you're able to change the appearance or the shape of the foods that they are willing to eat or that are their favorites, then it also is easier for you to upgrade the quality of those foods if and when needed. So, for example, if your kiddo loves chicken nuggets and that's one of their default foods, that's a safe food for them. You know that they will always eat chicken nuggets. They're not going to fight you on that. And that's going to be an easy go to for you. Well, do they always have to have the dinosaur shaped nuggets? Or are they a certain shape that they always have to have? If so, can you change that shape? And are they resilient to changing that shape? Because if they aren't, start there. But if they are, from a nutrition perspective, oftentimes with my one on one distance coaching clients, we are working not only on the complex picky eating components, but ultimately the parents who are working with me in my coaching programs are trying to improve their child's health and wellness through diet and nutrition and lifestyle. And so, in order to upgrade the quality of the food, sometimes we start here. So if your kiddo was eating the whole chicken nugget, back to that example, I would then say, okay, work on cutting up the chicken nuggets and see if they will allow you to change the shape. So you're cutting them up, because that way, when you start introducing the new upgraded quality of chicken nugget, whether that's going from a conventional chicken nugget to an organic chicken nugget, or maybe you are going gluten free or dairy free or soy free or whatever you're doing to navigate for your kiddo. If you are able to cut those chicken nuggets up, introducing that new chicken nugget is going to be much easier from a visual side of things for your child. And you're meeting them where they are in that moment, right? Because you have learned their preferences and you're just meeting them where they are. This is exactly the example. So we want to learn their preferences to the very best of our ability, because it tells us more about what's going on with them. And we have to see picky eating is not just a behavioral thing that your child is doing. The behavior and the picky eating, I'm doing air quotes over here with picky eating. The picky eating is communication. What is it communicating to us? What are the root causes underlying this complex picky eating for your child? Is it medical? Is it behavioral, environmental? Is it structural? Is it functional? Is it medical? Is there a trauma aspect? What's going on? That is exactly what we're diving into inside of Naturally Navigating Picky Eating, my new online course for parents of children with complex picky eating with and without developmental conditions. I'm teaching you how to identify the underlying reasons related to your child's picky eating, and I'm giving you the strategies and resources to follow up and tailor a plan according to your child's unique needs. You can learn more about naturally navigating picky eating in the show notes below and on speakingofhealthandwellness.com/picky-eating-course. If the course isn't a right fit for you at this time due to financial reasons, please take advantage of the free resources that I have here on the podcast. I have season 1 as well as this picky eating series this week. And I have a free guide called The Do's and Don'ts for Parents of Children with Complex Picky Eating. That will be listed in the show notes, and you can also find that on speakingofhealthandwellness.com/freebies. Again, the doors to Naturally Navigating Picky Eating are open this week. You can still get into the course after the doors close on May 18th, this Saturday at 8:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. However, that is when the cutoff ends to get the launch bonus of the 3 group Q&A calls with me at no extra cost. So if it sounds like a good fit, I would love to see you inside. I hope that this podcast has been supportive for you and that you are taking a listen to the other episodes in this series. And I am cheering you on, and I wish you all the very best. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. I'll see you again tomorrow on the podcast. Thanks. Thanks again for listening to Speaking of Health and Wellness, the podcast. I'm so grateful you've taken the time. For any of the references mentioned in the show, head over to speakingofhealthandwellness.com. If this episode resonated with you or inspired you, it would mean so much to me if you took a moment to subscribe, write a review, share it on social media, or with someone in your life who could really benefit from this information. Your support helps this podcast and the overall message and mission of Speaking of Health and Wellness reach more people. If you share on Instagram, tag me so I can personally thank you for listening. If you're on Facebook, come join our free community group of like-minded parents and professionals. The direct link is in the podcast description. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again so much, and take care.